The Carolina Hurricanes over the weekend did their 2-day event of doing exit interviews with players regarding the regular season, playoffs, and what their future could be with the Carolina Hurricanes. All of this and more on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen in a day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking about your Carolina Hurricanes. I am your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I also work at the Calder Times talking everything about the American Hockey League. I'm also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a good Monday edition of the show for you guys today. So we are going to start the show off talking about the Rod Brind'Amour contract extension that we saw being announced on Saturday night, thanks to Kevin Weeks, and also being confirmed on Sunday by Pierre LeBrun and also Walt Ruff. And then we're going to jump into exit interviews from Saturday, with the announcement that I made last week, talking about what the schedule for this week's going to be. We're going to go over what the schedule is going to look like and what players we're going to cover as well from the exit interviews from Saturday into the part one of this show. So today, like I said, we're going to go over some Rod Brind'Amour starting the stuff with this episode. And on Saturday night, Kevin Weeks, while covering Game 6 of the Edmonton Oilers Vancouver Canucks Western Conference semifinals and all that there in Edmonton, he broke the news that there was going to be a agreement with Rod Brind'Amour and the Carolina Hurricanes talking about a multi-year contract extension. And it was confirmed on Sunday between TSN's Pierre LeBrun and also Walt Ruff. And in that, the Carolina Hurricanes and Rod Brind'Amour have agreed to a multi-year extension for the current head coach to now stay longer with the Carolina Hurricanes after, leading the team to 6 straight playoff appearances, 6 straight first-round wins, and also 3 division titles in the last 4 seasons. And it was confirmed by Pierre LeBrun on Sunday that the deal is going to be a 5-year contract extension for Rod Brind'Amour to keep him here through at least 2029. And also from what Walt Ruff posted as well, assistant coaches Jeff Daniels and Tim Gleason, along with video coach Chris Huffline and goaltending coach Paul Schoenfelder, have also agreed to multi-year extensions as well. We don't know how long those ones are. It could be just as long as Rod Brind'Amour's, but we know those assistant coaches, the video coach, and the goaltending coach are all going to be staying with the Carolina Hurricanes. But the big story, of course, is the fact that Rod Brind'Amour is going to be staying with the Carolina Hurricanes for at least 5 more years, and at least through 2029. And honestly, it was kind of a no-brainer. Like, everyone knew it was going to happen. I mentioned on this show before that Don Waddell said that they're working on a deal that they've been talking every day about, and they're going to get something done. Even when Rod Brind'Amour has said the fact that he wants to stay, and they're going to he's been talking to Don, and they want to get something done as well. So and I know over the last couple of weeks there's been a lot of rumors and news of all the Toronto Maple Leafs want to go after Rod Brind'Amour. It's almost kind of like they're getting close to a done deal, which I don't think there ever was a done deal. They're even getting close to the thing getting done. The Seattle Kraken were kind of sniffing around Rod Brind'Amour as well. The fact that Ron Francis is the GM there, and they're trying to get that done as well. And I've been beating this drum for the last couple of weeks. Rod's not going anywhere. He wants to be here. He's been in Carolina since the 1999 through 2000 season, after getting traded from the Philadelphia Flyers when the Hurricanes gave up Keith Primo. And Rod's basically been here for the last 24 years, playing career that stretched through, stretched as long as it did, and then, being an assistant coach, and also now being the current head coach of the Carolina Hurricanes since 2018, 2019. Like I said, got multiple division titles, multiple playoff appearances, at least, 2 Eastern Conference final runs and stuff like that. In my opinion, he's probably, outside of winning a cup like Pierre Laviolette did, I think Rod Brind'Amour is he's probably the winningest coach and the best coach the Hurricanes have ever had in their franchise history, at least in terms of the relocation back to Carolina. Yes, like I said, I know Laviolette won a cup and stuff like that, but if you look at anything past the 05-06 season, the Hurricanes were okay under Pierre Laviolette. And, the fact that you also had Paul Maurice for 2 seasons, he did okay as well. But if you're looking as a whole of just continuous success and continuous just the way that the team plays, the way that, you've won divisions, you've made multiple playoff appearances, multiple runs in the playoffs, Rod Brind'Amour is probably I think not even probably, he's the most successful coach for the Hurricanes, and to possibly let him walk would have been a mistake for the Carolina Hurricanes, in my opinion. And it doesn't make sense for him to go. He's been in Raleigh for 24 years. His family's grown up here. Skylar, he was here, pretty much his entire life before going to Quinnipiac, and now he's with the Florida Panthers. His first, preseason game as a pro with the Panthers was at PNC Arena, where he grew up and stuff like that. And he also, it's just the fact that the Brind'Amour family's been here for so long. Brooksy, he's, as junior Hurricane, and, and the fact that the culture starts with Rod Brind'Amour, and the fact that he preaches every day to get plus 1% better, go 1-0 every day, come in, do your job, and learn to be better. You're always learning. And the fact that, yes, he walks around a lot when he does his post games or when he talks to the team and stuff like that, but those videos are absolutely amazing, and it shows that Rod Brind'Amour can't stand still, and the fact that he looks like he could still be able to jump over the boards and play a couple shifts and score some goals and probably fight someone in the process. But it's just the whole culture and the change of the Hurricanes starts with Rod Brind'Amour. And you see that the fact that, we'll talk about it later this week when we do our Sunday portions of the interviews, is that guys like Seth Jarvis, guys like Jack Drury, even the younger guys, like you look at Jackson Blake and, all of them, Scott Morrow, the fact that they can come into those locker rooms and feel welcomed right away. There's no egos. There's no, stay in your lane, rookie, and stuff like that. No, like the guys more than welcome the new guys in with no issues, make them feel like they were even part of the team. They go out of their way to make sure those guys are taken care of. He's been for a couple of years. Brent Burns has had some of the new guys over to, cook them dinner and, just welcome to the team. Seth Jarvis even said he was, a little bit more quieter, which is surprising to say, but he didn't want to step on any toes, but right away the guys made him want him to be himself. And that's what he really liked about the fact that there's no, trying to force guys to not be who they are. And that all starts with Rod Brind'Amour, and the fact that he's more than just a player's coach. He's been there. He's done that. He's a former captain for the Hurricanes, led the team to winning the cup in 2006. And it makes sense to keep him here. And everyone's like, well, why did it take so long? Why was it such a thing in the playoffs? It's the same thing that happened, 3 years ago, back in 2021. There was all questions about, okay, is Rod going to stay? What's going to happen? Stuff like that. And it's like, no, it's just he was waiting for his assistant coaches then to get taken care of. And that's basically the same thing right now. And it's been preached and it's been said multiple times. Rod Brind'Amour is make sure his guys are taken care of in terms of the staff, and then he'll worry about him. And that's what it was. And for the fact that they were asking the players at the exit interviews, did you think about Rod's contract? Did it affect you in any way? And the guys are like, we weren't even thinking about it. We just knew he was going to be here, and that's the truth. And that's Rod Brind'Amour for you. So it just doesn't make any sense to where they made it such a thing, and then there was all these rumors, and then it was like the main topic of discussion is, is Rod Brind'Amour going to stay? Is he going to stay? Yeah, he's going to stay. It doesn't make. There was no doubt in my mind that Rod Brind'Amour was going to be Carolina Hurricane, because he is essentially the Carolina Hurricanes. Name another coach who's a face of a franchise like Rod Brind'Amour. He bleeds red and black here in Carolina, and to think of him coaching anywhere else makes no sense, because even Rod says he wants to stay in Carolina. He wants to get the job done here, and it's good to see that the deal got done. You finally put those rumors to rest, can finally put the speculations and the questions to rest, as well as the fact that you got Rod Brind'Amour for at least 5 more years. And that's a good thing to have. And especially when, for someone like him, That's a huge deal because, a lot of guys, a lot of players want to come to Carolina. Brent Burns literally waived his no trade clause to come to Carolina. Brind'Amour, who didn't even play nowhere near 40 games this year, signed a contract extension, and he did it because Rod Brind'Amour and the culture here made him feel welcome, made him, he will stay here and work with a coach like that, a group like that, even with limited playing time, because the fact that he was given, opportunities when there was there, he did all the right things, and the fact that he will go to lengths for his head coach. And that really said something with the fact that he could have gone anywhere else, but he got a contract extension done well before the playoffs even started, and the fact that he attributed it to Rod Brind'Amour and just everything's going around the Carolina Hurricanes. So yeah, it speaks a lot. It's good that Rod Brind'Amour is going to stay for 5 more years and puts to bed any other speculations of him going anywhere else. Which, like I said, for me, there is no anywhere else for Rod Brind'Amour. So in terms of that, that's all finally taken care of, and now we're going to go into start talking about exit interviews. And for this episode, we're going to focus on 3 players, and that's kind of what we're going to be doing for the next 4 days here on Locked On Hurricanes between Monday and Thursday. It's going to be, every player talked, so we're going to try to do at least 3 players per episode because we're not going to get to everyone. It's just a lot. If we were doing every single person and every single quote and stuff, we'd be doing this for like 2 weeks, and I know there's going to be a lot more stuff coming on as we get closer to the draft and everything else. So we're going to try to highlight the main guys over the next 4 episodes between, like I said, Monday and Thursday. So for today's episode, Monday, Tuesday is going to be Saturday's interviews, and then Wednesday, Thursdays is going to be the Sunday interviews. So for part 1 today of the Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, we're going to be talking about Jake Guentzel, Brady Skjei, and Brett Pesce. And we're going to start that here in a little bit on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. And with Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. And with Policygenius, it helps you compare your options from top companies and their team of licensed experts are on hand to help talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step, and it easily compares quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. And with Policygenius, it gives you unbiased advice from licensed expert support teams and the fact that they have no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. And with that, there's thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs with Policygenius. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. Welcome back to a second portion of the show of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So now we're going to jump into the exit interviews, and the first person we're going to talk about today is Jake Guentzel. Guentzel came over in the trade on March 7th that saw Michael Bunting, Vasily Ponomarev, a few guys on a draft pick go back to Pittsburgh, and of course Carolina Hurricanes got Jake Guentzel and Ty Smith. And for the Carolina Hurricanes in the regular season, Jake Guentzel had 8 goals, 17 assists for 25 points in 17 games. Because he missed the first 3 games of being out on injury. And then looking at the playoffs for him, the reason why the Carolina Hurricanes got him, because now after this postseason, he's got 67 points in 69 games. He is pretty much almost a point per game guy in the playoffs. Overall in his career, 38 goals and 29 assists. And for the Carolina Hurricanes, he pretty much did what he was asked to do for 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points in 11 games with the Carolina Hurricanes. And that's kind of one of the main reasons why you wanted to bring him over, get that playoff experience, get that playoff, touch that he has. And he had it. He had it for the Hurricanes. Like I said, 9 points in 11 games. Not much more you can ask. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Hurricanes and Jake Guentzel want to do, because the fact that Jake Guentzel is a unrestricted free agent going into this offseason, and it's no surprise that the Carolina Hurricanes want to keep Jake Guentzel because of the fact that they went against their usual policy of they don't want to go for rentals, but they went out of their way to go get a guy like him because they thought, okay, we need to go all in. This is the time to do it. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where it came up a little short. But it's one of those things where you hope he stays because you want him to stay, and that's kind of the main thing. And the contract that he just finished up was a 5-year, $30 million deal that lasted since the 2019-2020 season and just expired this season for 23-24. They also include a modified no-trade clause, and I think the Hurricanes were not part of his 12-team no-trade list, and his annual average value was $6 million. So looking at it, you're probably looking somewhere around, I want to say about $8 to $9 million. It could be more. It's just really depending on it depends on what Jake wants to do and what the Hurricanes want to do to see how they make that work. Because there's a lot of guys that are going to be unrestricted free agents for the Hurricanes and even the RFAs this offseason. But Jake Guentzel is going to be one of the guys that the Hurricanes really want to make a run at. And even Elliot Freeman of 32 Thoughts even said the same thing. The Hurricanes want to keep him, and they're going to make a run for him. So it just all depends on if Jake and the Hurricanes can find a common ground to make it work for him to stay in Carolina while also giving the team the flexibility to bring other guys back, through the re-sign stage or even free agency that starts on July 1st. So going to some quotes from the interviews on Saturday with Jake Guentzel on him re-signing, Jake said, "I've loved my experience here. It's a great place to play, and I don't think you realize behind the scenes how good it is. We'll see what happens." And he also talked more on the fact that he wants to make this decision what's best for his family, and the fact that he also wants long-term stability. So it's good to see that Jake loved being here in Carolina. And like I said in the first segment with Rod Brind'Amour on the culture, guys love being with this team because of how close the guys are. How it's basically a family here in Carolina. And you look at the area too. I mean, you can't go wrong with the Triangle. A lot of great places to eat. Everyone's really nice up there. It's a good area to be in. You've got Chapel Hill that's really close. You've got, downtown Raleigh. You got Durham. You're a couple hours from the mountains, a couple hours from the beach. Like you can't really go wrong with living right there in Raleigh, to where you're just in the Triangle specifically because there's so many things that are going on, and it's got a nice vibe to it. And just being able to find good schools for your kids, being around like the team because there's guys who live in Raleigh full time. Like there's some some guys do go home and stuff like that. They got hometowns and all of that, but there's guys that stay in Carolina full time, and there's guys who have retired from the Hurricanes who are still in the area. Justin Williams, Cam Ward. It's one of those things. Rod Brind'Amour, of course, being the head coach and all that, but it's being in the area is really great, and being around the team is really fun too. And the fact that guys want to be here, and it's good to see that Jake saw that. He saw how good the area is. He saw how good the experience was with the team. And, he did say, "Yeah, we'll see what happens." And he wants to do what's best for his family and wants to find long-term stability. And I think he could get that here in Carolina. I really do think he can because he's only 29 years old. Omaha, Nebraska, former 77th overall pick in the third round from the 2013 draft by the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yes, his contract was $6 million. He could be looking at between 8 and 9. I could see where that's kind of like a sticking point for him, but who knows? Maybe it'll work out where Carolina is like, hey, we want to keep you here long term. Let's, we want to give you what you want, but it's also we want to make sure that we get other guys signed as well. So they're not going to lowball Jake, but I think they're going to try to find a way to make a nice common ground with him to see maybe they can work out a deal. And who knows? Maybe maybe it will happen. But I just think keeping him will be good for the team because you already can see that he has great chemistry with Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Andrei Svechnikov. He put up points, 25 points in 17 games in the regular season. You're talking 9 points in 11 games in the playoffs. So you cannot ask for more out of a guy like him. And keeping him here would be really, really beneficial for the Hurricanes. So it will be really interesting to see. Hopefully Jake stays, and hopefully, maybe try to run it back with that top line that we saw in the playoffs, or maybe have him, Guentzel with Aho and Jarvis once again, because those three were lethal at the back end of the regular season. So the other guy we're going to talk about here is going to be Brady Skjei, in the fact that he is also going to be unrestricted free agent as well. And, the fact that, talking about his next contract, Brady did say, I probably just want a fair offer. That's the biggest thing. And he also says, he didn't want to do a lot of negotiating during the regular season. He said he loves the city and the group and is open to returning. And the fact that he is open to returning, he loves the area. He also wants a fair deal, which is fair. I mean, you're 30, he's 30 years old. He's from Lakeville, Minnesota. It's just coming off a contract where it was 6 years for $31.5 million, and his AAV was $5.25 million that he signed with the New York Rangers back in July of 2018, and he's been with the Hurricanes since the 2019-2020 season when the Hurricanes traded for him. So he's been here since 2020 essentially, and he's played really good for the Hurricanes. I mean, there's not more you can ask out of Brady Skjei. And you look at how this past season, the 23-24 season, in terms of goals, it was a normal season for him. He had 18 goals last year, 13 this year, but he saw a huge uptick in his assists. He had 20 assists, last season. This year he had 34, which ties his career high that he set back in 16-17 with the Rangers. But also you look at his points. He had a career high 47 points with the Hurricanes. So that's really good for Brady Skjei, the fact that he was able to get the assists, tie it. That was the previous high. But he also set a career high for points, and that's all you can really ask for. I mean, he was close to 50 for the first time in his career. And it's fair for him to get a fair deal. Like I said, he's 30 years old. He wants to get that last contract because, you're at 30. A lot of guys don't last past 35 or even 36. So if you're talking 3, 4, 5 years, I think it's a fair deal to give Brady Skjei at least a 3 or 4 year deal, maybe 5 if you really want to push it. But if you're talking he's 30, you give him a contract until he's 33 or 34 and give him a decent AAV that makes sense. I could see them doing it. Now it all depends. Are you looking at, do you go up to an even 6? Do you go to 6.5? 7 is going to be a little high for Brady Skjei, especially where he's at right now at 30. I would say 6.5 would be a fair deal for Brady Skjei in all terms. I know Elliot Freeman on 32 Thoughts, on the same episode where he was talking about Seth Jarvis and, Jake Guentzel and, Jacob Slavin and all that, even Rod Brind'Amour. He said that the Hurricanes did offer Brady Skjei last year Dmitry Orlov type contracts, short term, but high AAV. And nothing came to fruition on that, of course, but who really knows? I think if you give a 3-4 year deal with that's around $6 million, maybe 6.5 at the most, I think it's a fair deal. And you can't ask, it's understandable for Brady that, he wants something that works and he wants to stay. He's open to the idea of staying. And that's all you can really do is hope that it works out. And, Brady Skjei's been good for the Hurricanes. He's got some good offensive upside, as long as he's with a defensive partner, because like Brett Pesce, they both work fairly well together in all terms. And I think you could make it work to where it's a deal that works for both sides, that keeps him here in Carolina and gets him the money that he deserves. And it's one of the things that you kind of run you want to finish the story. You kind of want to run it back. And I know when we talk about Brett Pesce here in a little bit, it's with guys like Slavin, Pesce, they've both been here for a long time. Brady Skjei's been here since 2020, so he's seen what it's like with all these division title wins and deep playoff runs. It's kind of like you want to finish the story with at least those 3 guys on the defense. Skjei, Pesce, and Slavin. You want to see those 3 guys go win a championship for Carolina because they've been here together for a decent amount of time. So that's what you're kind of hoping for. And I think bringing Brady Skjei back would be good for the second D pair, because the second D pair is good. Like the Hurricanes have a good top 4. You're looking at Slavin, Burns, Skjei, and Pesce. That's a top 4 any team would love to have. And you see why the Hurricanes are so good every year in terms of like just how defensively structured how they are. Yeah, it was kind of a slow start at the beginning of the year, but overall, defense is always talked about as a top 5 defense in the league. And if you're able to keep, one half at least of your second D pair, along with who you go with Slavin and Burns, that's a good foundation for the Hurricanes, especially talking about your blue line. And talking about the second D pair, we got to talk about Brett Pesce, and we will talk about him here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride or die every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. And now we're going to finish up the episode talking about Brett Pesce. And the 29-year-old Tarrytown native is also going to be an unrestricted free agent, essentially for the first time in his career. And he's just coming off a deal that he signed with the Hurricanes back in 2017. That was 6 years, $24.15 million that saw him have an annual average value of $4.025 million, with the fact that he had a new move truck clause over the last 2 seasons. And looking at the 2023-24 season, probably not the greatest for Brett in his opinion in terms of points-wise, for the fact that he had 13 points this season in 70 games, the lowest of his entire career. Goals-wise, wasn't the lowest, but it was kind of down there. He only had 3, and then in terms of assists, it was his lowest assist total of his career at 10 for the 9-year veteran who's been here with the Carolina Hurricanes since being 21 in his rookie season in the 2015-2016 season. And, it's definitely a season that, Brett understands wasn't his greatest and one that he wants to, try to build off of and stuff like that. And it's one of those things where it was an overall tough season for him, but Brett is more so a defensive player and defensive defenseman and with some offensive as well. But he's good at the transition game, and it's just one of those things where some guys have seasons where it doesn't really go well, but he has a track record of being a really good defenseman who can put up points when it's there in terms of assists and stuff like that. It just wasn't. It was definitely a season he wished he kind of had back. He only played 70 games, was hurt for the most part. And even in the playoffs, he got hurt. He told media that he fractured his left fibula near his ankle in the first round. That was coming after game 2 against the New York Islanders. And for the fact, not even a couple weeks later, he was already back in skates. It's really something to say with the fact that you're looking at a guy who fractured his leg and was trying to come back and get ready for the playoffs. You thought you were going to get him back in round 2. It didn't really work out. And it's kind of surprising the fact it was even on skates in general, because for me, it's like, okay, you fractured your tibia, you fractured your fibula by your ankle, and then you're already back. Like, okay. I mean, it just shows you that guys want to win the cup really badly, and that's just how much it means to go and win the Stanley Cup. The fact that you will have a fractured leg and be back in skates trying to get back to play because you don't want to miss time. And, and that's the same thing for Jesper Foss. He unfortunately got hurt at the last game of the regular season. He's in a neck brace. He's still waiting, to get all that taken care of. He even said it's, worst time for him. He hated it for the fact that he was about ready to, go have some fun in the playoffs, and he missed time. And of course, another big guy that talked about injuries that he suffered through the season in Seth Jarvis, but we'll save that for later on in the week when we do our part 2, when we do our Sunday exit interviews later on this week. But for Brett Pesce, you talk about his contract extension. He says, I'm hopeful we can work something out here. I love it here, and I love the guys. I still think we can get it done. And he also said, if he's looking for a big deal in free agency, and Brett said, you can take all this money, and sometimes it makes the team worse. It all depends on what you value. It's fun to win and be in a winning culture. And that's exactly, it's a good thing to have for Brett's the fact that, you can get all this money, but, you want happiness as well, and you want to be in a good situation. And, we'll talk about, Seth Jarvis kind of also fitting into that Brett Pesce mentality of you want happiness over money. And Brett's been here since 2015-16. Like I said, he wants to get the story done. Even for Hurricanes fans, you want to see guys like Brett Pesce and Jacob Slavin, who've been here through the back end of the dark times, finally made the playoffs, had these runs, and you want them to stay. And you want to see those guys finish the story like Cody Rhodes, and if you follow WWE, but they want to go win the title because they've been with the team for so long. They know what it's like to see the transition from struggling to being what it is now, and you want to see those guys win the cup. So for the fact that Brett's like, yeah, I want to get a decent amount of money, but I also want to make sure the fit's right, and I love the area, and that's kind of what you want out of him. So if you're, and he even told reporters too when they asked about working with Brady Skjei, they both want to be here. They both want to get the job done. So hopefully, cross your fingers that you keep that second D pair together. If you can keep 76 and 22 together, then that's a good sign for the Hurricanes. The fact that if you can almost run it back with your same defense of Slavin, Burns, Skjei, Pesce, and then Orlov and Chatfield, because even Jalen Chatfield's up for unrestricted free agent contract. He's an unrestricted free agent as well. We'll talk about him, on Tuesday's show. But it's one of those things where you want to keep Brett here. He's been here for a long time. You want, like I said, you want to see him get the job done. You want to see him get over the hump. And he even says he thinks the team can get the job done. It's just, getting over that hump, trying to figure out what they need to do for next season. And, hopefully, the power play does good in the playoffs, next year. And, kind of just, figure out some things the tweaks that they need to do, and then go on from there and, go win the franchise's second Stanley Cup ever. And, finally complete the story and complete the cycle of, just that drive of guys like Brett, guys like Slavin saw what it was like when there wasn't a lot of fans there, when it was kind of, not great if you're a Carolina Hurricane player. When you see the transition where Rod Brind'Amour takes over, Tom Dutton becomes owner, Don Waddell's the GM, and you see this transition of success for the team, back-to-back seasons where you essentially sell out the entire year. You have an outdoor game, multiple playoff runs, multiple Eastern Conference final appearances and stuff like that. Now it's like they want to get the job done. They want to come back here and just do what it takes to go win a Stanley Cup. So hopefully, Brett does stay. Hopefully Brady does stay. And hopefully they get the deals that works out for them, but also gives the team flexibility as well. Because you got to think of the short term, but you also got to think of the long term as well, because Jacob Slavin is due for a contract extension, which he could potentially have. And we'll talk about Jacob Slavin later on this week as well. But there's a lot of question marks surrounding the team. But hopefully, if you talk about Guentzel, Pesce, and Skjei, hopefully something works out and where all three guys stay, or if you at least keep two of them. Which two? It all really depends on how, what comes to contract talks with those three guys, along with the Carolina Hurricanes as well. So it'll be very, very interesting. But that'll wrap up the Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. If you want to follow me, check me out at OneTrueZach on X. You can follow the podcast at LO_Hurricanes. If you click the link tree in my bio on my personal Twitter, you can find, or X, if you want, that's where you can find all my articles at the Hockey Rare. There's a lot of content over the last couple of days talking about the Rod Brind'Amour contract extension and all the takeaways from the X interviews over the weekend. If you want to check out anything on my AHL side of things, you can check out the Calder Times there. And if you want to listen or watch on YouTube of my other podcast, The Searchcast, you can check that out there as well. And also for this podcast, you can check it out on all podcast platforms. There is a link to that. And if you do listen to this, if you're able to, leave a 5-star rating, because it'll help grow the show and get us out more. And if you leave a review with your 5-star rating, I just might read it out on the podcast. And on the YouTube side of things, make sure to hit subscribe, hit the bell notification, leave a thumbs up as well. And in the comments, let me know what type of deal would you want to see hopefully get done for Guentzel, Skjei, and Pesce. And out of those three, who do you hope stays with the Carolina Hurricanes and all that good stuff as well? Make sure to share this so other Hurricanes fans can see it as well. Make sure they become everydayers just like you guys, because we are over 160 subscribers. We are on the road to 1,000, because if we get to 1,000, I might just do something really cool for you guys. But like I said, that wraps up the episode. I hope everyone's a great rest of their Monday. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.